Hello everyone. I have another spreadsheet assignment for you, and this one's going to be showing you the difference between using a function and using a formula to do math on a spreadsheet. Now, these numbers that you're looking at right now, they really have no particular meaning. You're going to end up with different answers in some of these yellow squares down here. So what your goal here is to, first off, understand what is a function, and the second thing is what is a formula. And if you've taken math, I know you have, formulas are basically where you would have an equation that you can plug in numbers to get different kinds of answers. Okay, so it would be like 5 plus x equals 7, and then x would be 2. It's kind of along that same line. It looks a little bit different using a spreadsheet, but you get kind of similar answers. A function, however, is when you use a kind of predefined instruction from the spreadsheet, and all the functions are up here in this with this little symbol right here. It's called epsilon. All right. And you can find there's a whole bunch of them down here. We're not going to get into most of these down here, but we're mostly going to be using these up here. So sum, as you know, would add up all the numbers that you define. Average would average them all up. Count will count up how many numbers are there in the cells that you selected. Max will tell you the highest number, and as you suspect, min will tell you what is the smallest number in that group. Now, you can do a lot of these in your head. For example, if you look at any of these, you already know that the answer for min is going to be 2, and the max is going to be 19. And when you hit the count function, it's going to count that there are 4 or 5 numbers, in the column that you're dealing with. So it's really important when you deal with formulas and functions is that you kind of keep track and keep straight in your mind what are the cell references that you're going to be using. And that means the cell reference is going to be what is the name of this cell. So see if you can figure that one out. I'll give you a second. Look at the here and here. Okay, what is the name of this cell? If you said B7, you would be correct. So your answers are going to be all in row number 7, and either B, C, D, all the way through J. I didn't put anything in row A because I needed a spot to put this label answers here. And you'll find that when you deal with spreadsheets, about half the time you don't use cell A1 for anything because it's just necessary to keep it blank because maybe you need to put in information over here like labels. So a lot of times A1 isn't used a lot of times, but it just depends on what you're trying to do. No rule says you can't use it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you an example here. We're going to, the directions are add using a formula. And here's how you do formulas. This is super important to understand this. It's not complicated, but you have to be careful. So click in the cell where you want your answer to be. In this case, it's going to be B7. Formulas and functions always begin with the equal sign. So if you don't put an equal sign in, the spreadsheet doesn't know what, it just thinks you're typing in some text in there or a number. So you start with the equal sign. So the first thing we want to know is what cells do we want to add up? We want to add up B2, B3, B4, B5, and B6. So it's really actually quite that simple. You type in, we want to start with B2, and then you hit the plus sign, and then B3 plus B4 plus B5 plus B6. And then you have to make sure you don't click anywhere else like with the other one. Don't click anywhere else. Just hit the enter or return key on your keyboard, and you'll see that you get the answer 41. So you added these up using a formula. The function was what we used in the last spreadsheet. So we want to add these up. And if you remember from last time, we used sum. So I'm going to click in C B7. That's the cell reference we're going to be using. We'll go over here, and then I can click on, and there's more than one way to do this. So I'm going to start with sum, and then you see it actually puts in equal sign, sum, and then some parentheses. And the cell references always will go in the parentheses when you're using a function. So once you have this set up, then all you do is hold your mouse down on, let's say, C2 in this example, and you highlight all these. And what this means here is you're going to sum from C2, and then a colon means like 2, C6. So you're going to sum up all the cells from C2 to C6 right here. And when you hit the Enter key, you get 41. So it does the same thing, obviously. You can see that. This is the same as summing, right? Adding up everything. And this is actually using the function sum to add these up right here. It tells you right up here in this area what you have in that cell. So if I click in this one over here, it's going to tell me this is what's in this cell. So that would be the same thing for using a formula. Now, if you don't know how to average, I'm going to give you a quick lesson. I'm not a math teacher. You all know this. All right. But averaging means to add up all the numbers that you want to average and then divide by how many numbers there are. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So we know we're going to be dividing by 5. So really, it's going to come down to 41 divided by 5, and that will give you the average number right here. But I want you to actually physically put it in. So remember, the first thing you do is you would hit equals, and then you're going to add up all the numbers. So we'd be using a formula. So if you want, you can always go over to this one and copy this. Yeah, there it is. You could copy this information right here. Save yourself a little bit of work. There's C for copy, and then I'll put it in here, and then paste it in this spot right here. There's one way to save yourself a little bit of typing. I'm all for shortcuts. So now you've added them all up. So when you hit enter or return, you're gonna get 41. But that's not what you want, is it? You need to divide that by 5. So to do division, you're going to use the slash. Now, if you just do it like this, and I put the number 5 in there, it's going to add up B2 through B6, and then just divide B6 by 5. And that's not what you want. You want to add them all up and then divide by 5. So if you remember your order of operations, you're going to put parentheses around all the cells. That means add up everything in here first and then divide that sum by 5. So when I hit return, there it is. The average of these numbers is 8.2. So let's do it the easy way now. All right. So click in the cell E, right here, E7. Go over here, pull down average. That's the function we're going to use. And then highlight the cells you want to average together. It's much simpler, and then hit enter, return. See, the answer is the same. It's much simpler, but I want you to really understand what's going on when you use some of these functions. So that's why we're doing it manually. And sometimes you do have to do it manually. I won't bore you with the details, but sometimes you do. And then this is what I should see. When I click in this cell, I'm going to look for this. Don't just put in the number 8.2, all right? I can mix up the numbers a little bit there if I have to, but just don't put in that number there, because I'm not looking at the number. I'm looking up here to see, did you put in the right formula? Okay, so the next thing is that you're going to be, I'm not going to tell you how to do this one, subtract using a formula. And I'm sure you all know that the symbol for subtraction is the little dash, right? So you would start with an equal sign, start with the first cell, and then subtract all the numbers. It'll be some negative number there. Okay, this one here is multiply using a formula. Now this, you may not know this one, is you'd start with equal sign, and then you can click right here if you want to make yourself life easier. Click on that. It'll put G2, and then to multiply numbers, don't put an X. All right, you use the asterisk, which is Shift 8, and you get that little star. All right, G2 times. Then if you just want to, if you want to type it in, you can, or you just click on it, and it'll put it in there for you, just like that. And then you'd hit star, which is, remember, Shift 8, and then when you're done, you'd go ahead and press enter. This one is find the greatest using a function. So I already know that the greatest number in this list is 19. So what you're going to do is over here, this is just going to be a function. You don't have to do any manual math on this one. All right. So you click on the cell you want, but you can figure out which one of these you would use to figure out what is the greatest. All right. And that's max. All right. So you hit max, and see it puts equal sign, max, parentheses, and then you would just go here and highlight all these numbers here. Let go, hit enter, and there's, it says 19 is the largest number. This one here, I won't tell you how to do it. This one says find the least using a function. Which one of these would you be using? And then count how many are in this column. Well, you know the number is going to be 5. I'm not going to make it, it's not a big surprise there. But you do the same thing. Click in this cell, go over here, pull down count, highlight them all, and hit enter, and it will tell you how many numbers are in that column. Okay, so I'm going to turn you loose on this one. All right, I'm going to place this in the as an assignment. I'm going to place this document in there, and then I want you to go ahead and try and figure all these out here. And remember, when I correct it, I'm going to be looking into the yellow cells and looking up here to see, is there a formula or a function, you know, based on what it says at the top here. So don't just put in the numbers. I've had that issue before. Go ahead and put in exactly what it's asking for. So I want to see that there's a formula here. If you have any questions, you can always email me and ask me that way. And then this will be due on a week from today, which will be Thursday of next week. And I will put that in the directions as well.